Hi there, I'm Danelle, and this week I'd like to show you what I've been working on. I am a painter and I have some kind of new interesting things to show you. I have a new pochade box. I don't know if that's how you say it, but it's a little box with an easel, and it has some really cool features. And I can also fit it in my backpack. I'll show you, I used it for the first time this morning out in the field, and I'll show you how I set it up, some of the things I'd like to change, and what I think of it. And also I'm going to show you my sketches and my paintings for this week. Here we go. Here are the sketches for the week. This is at one of our local lakes. I've shown sketches of this location before. That we like to go to this spot when it's raining. This day it was pretty sunny. I was kind of happy with this one. It turned out a little brighter than some of the other sketches from this lake. And a little later in the week, I went to the same lake from a little bit different position. And in this one, I was trying to get a watercolor sketch without the pre-pen drawing. And I find that because I'm doing it quickly, it's kind of hard to get a very crisp edges in there. They tend to be kind of blurry, and I think it's because the painting is just not dry. I don't have time to let it dry in between some of the layers, but when I got home, I did kind of crisp up some of these. I lightened this roof so it would show up a little better. So I'm pretty happy with it. It has a whole different feel than one like this with the pen. So those are the two Ward Lake pieces. This is one I did a little later in the week. This one was a little bit intimidating. This is a waterfall on what we call Lunch Creek Trail. And not only do I find waterfalls and even creeks kind of intimidating, being that our water has a brown tinge, even though it's very clear, sometimes if you're not careful, and it can just end up looking like a giant slug crawling through the forest, which isn't unlikely in the rainforest here, but not what I was going for. And then to add to the challenge, I'm still trying to get familiar with watercolor. It's not like I've never done watercolor, it's just I feel like I've never come close to mastering it, and I still haven't, but I actually was a little more happy with this one than I expected. I at least kept a good range of values in there, and it does resemble water, so not too bad. And here is one. This one turned out kind of odd. This was a fairly rainy day, so I was fighting a misty rain. And as you can see, there's just these very, very dense trees in here. These are some tall, skinny red alders. They tend to grow on the edges of trails and roads. They spring up really quickly, and they get tall and spindly. And then on the sides of the trail, it wasn't a terribly picturesque spot. There's just this big tumble of salmonberry shrubs, elderberry shrubs, all kinds of little blueberry shrubs. Anyway, it's just this big green mass. So trying to make some sort of interest in these big green masses was tough. And I was sitting slightly below this bridge, and there's a tiny little there. That's a bridge behind this bridge. So I had some weird perspective challenges. But this one, I wouldn't say that's a beautiful painting. It's not a very good composition with the bridge just plopped right in the center. But it's still kind of interesting and different. It gave me something different to practice. And this is one I did while making a video. I'll put a card up above for that video. This was one of my vlogs at Waterfall Muskeg. And this is just some of our really interesting muskeg trees. So if you're interested in some kind of outdoors, wild Alaska art in the outdoors, check out that video. And here's another muskeg painting that I did at a different muskeg, way out in the remote areas. There's a pond there. I also did a vlog at that pond. I'll put a card up above for that one. And this is just another area of the muskeg. I've always loved this spot. It has these big rock outcroppings with these kind of interesting, kind of stunted trees and shrubs popping out of them. I was fairly happy with this one. It was pretty challenging to get. The sun was extraordinarily brilliant. We're finally getting a little bit of sun. I see here there's a mark I need to try to get rid of. This happened when I was carrying it back. It still wasn't completely dry. I only have so much time when I do these in the morning before work. I'll go for a hike and do these little paintings. So these are often still kind of wet when I carry them back. So sometimes this is a hazard. But I was pretty happy with this one. I think I captured the sky and these distant treed hillsides fairly decently. I really liked how this paint picked up the bright, warm colors of the muskeg down there. So I was fairly happy with that one. And then here's a couple that did not turn out. This day turned out way rainier than I expected, so I didn't go hike on a trail that had any kind of shelter. I thought I could be sheltered enough under these trees. So I started sketching this bridge with my waterproof pen, and then, I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but down here the pen started smearing and running, even though it's waterproof ink. And then pretty soon the pen stopped making marks on here at all. So then I decided, well, I'll just use my pencil. And so I started sketching in with pencil, and then it started raining harder and harder, and the water just, it got so much rain on my page that I had to give up. So I hiked down to an area closer to my car where there was a shelter, and I had already painted a painting there, and it was really the only interesting view from that shelter. So I just quickly sketched my dog Edna while she was waiting for me to throw the ball. It's not a great sketch, but it was what I could do that day, and at least I got something. I got some practice and got something to bring home. Now I want to show you, I have one more sketch to show you. I did this one from a photo that I took, and this is just pen. I didn't do any underdrawing, but I did do some careful measuring. This is from a picture I took of my border collie Henry. He was feeling rather concerned that maybe I was going to get in the car and go somewhere. So he was staring at me very hard and looking slightly concerned that somehow I would leave without him, which would be a tragedy in his mind. He's 3 years old and he is full of energy. All right, now I want to show you my new pochade box. So I have it set up here with the painting that I did this morning. And this was at a pond that I also did a video at. I'll put a card up for that one, Coast Guard Pond. I was pretty happy with this, actually. This is the first en plein air oil painting I've ever done. And I just got this box in the mail. And there's some things I want to adjust about it. I had to buy the box itself, this supplementary tray here, and it's pretty cool. I still haven't figured out how to put my blobs of paint in it. These are actually little bead containers. They're all connected together, and they actually don't work terribly, but when you dip your brush in, the paint's so sticky that it kind of jiggles them around, and then they end up with paint on the outside. Plus this one's taking up space on this little tiny palette, which I don't super love. The only reason I didn't put my paint on the palette itself is because this clearance here is quite low. I wasn't sure if I closed the box what would happen. So to take this out, I was going to use panels with this. I still am. I have an 8x10 carrier. I'll show you that in a minute. So I ordered 80 8x10. I'll turn this around. I ordered 80 8x10 canvas panels to use with this box to take out several times a week to paint with. Now I got paint on my hand. I'm probably gonna have it on my face now. I ordered them from Amazon. I've mentioned before, we don't have an art store here in town on our island here in Southeast Alaska. So I have to order most of my stuff from online sources. Anyway, those panels are terrible. They're warped. They're just terrible quality. And I may as well show you the panel carrier now, because if you're oil painting outdoors, you have to have a way to carry this wet, sticky painting home in your backpack. Well, I have a backpack. That's how I'm carrying. I'll show you how I set up my backpack. So I bought this panel carrier. It's a panel pack from literally panelpack.com. I got the idea from someone on YouTube. Oh, I wish I could remember her name. So this little panel carrier, all you have to do, it works with this stretched canvas too. I was delighted to learn, being that my canvas boards that I ordered were a disaster. I'm going to have to send those back, and 80 of them weighs a lot. So you just place it face down, and then it came with these two bands. And you very carefully make sure your board is on. I'm like, why is my board sticky? That would be my painting. There you go. Make sure your board is on the back, and then just stretch these over, and then you can just throw it in your pack. Now this, on next week's update, I'll try to experiment with, I've watched videos of other people using these, and they have their paint blobs on here. So they probably figured out the clearance. I'm thinking if I can figure out exactly where these indentations go here, relative to down here, I can probably place my little blobs of paint just perfectly here. It'll give me less room for mixing. So I don't know, maybe I'll continue to like these little guys. And I could probably figure out a way to stick these down so that when I put my brushes in, you can see how when I put my brushes in, they they do that, which is really annoying. Here is another neat feature of this box. Once you take off this side tray, to have better access to your palette, to be able to clean it better, it has this magnetically attached little strip, and then you can slide out the palette. Now I haven't tried to do this before, so let's see how, oh, that was pretty easy. So you can just slide that out. I haven't looked under here before, but has these two indentations there. I'm not sure what those, seems like those should be useful somehow. So then anyway, you could go clean your palette, slide it right back in, then replace this. Just be sure not to lose it. And that's pretty cool. What I did this morning and learned my lesson is I forgot this. I did a painting yesterday out on my deck. Where did I put that? Oh, I'll go get that so I can show you that. That's another piece that I did this week. But I bought these little cups. I could not find any that were small and that did not have these little clips on the back. This is too thick to put those, slide that on with those little clips. So I took some tin snips and I just cut it off. It's sharp now. Because I wanted it just set on here. Now there's a bunch of really strong magnets on this, and this is kind of handy. I just realized when I set it here, the magnet kind of holds it in place a little bit. What I did this morning though is I forgot this. I have literally never painted an oil painting without any thinner. So when I did this painting this morning, I had to start with just a lot of dry brushing. And they're actually, I thought it was gonna be terrible, but in some way it was kind of good because it forced me to slow down actually. I have a photo, I'll pop that up here, of the setup out at the pond and what the initial painting looked like with no thinner at all, no medium, and how it looked kind of dry. So you can see how it started out. And then I took it home and then I worked on it some more to get this final version. I think it's final. I think I'm done. I'm trying very hard to not overwork things. One of the alla prima principles is to only work till the painting is 80% finished. So I'm trying really hard to stop overworking things. And so I ended up with this guy. Let me show you how I pack all this up and get it in my backpack. So I already showed you how I put this in the wet canvas carrier. I'll show you how I pack this all up. These, because they're loose, get paint on them. I am going to try putting my paint straight on here. It is a very tiny mixing area. I'll just wipe that off. And being that these were little bead carriers that came with this cool little box where they fit really nicely in there. I think this was maybe $3 at Walmart. They already need more paint after finishing that work this morning. It was actually really interesting to do that underpainting with the with the no medium. It was really hard to make the paint move. It really forced me to slow down and be patient. Those are two things all my life which I have needed practice with. I don't know how many times I ran into things, fell off of things, made mistakes, broke things because I was going too fast and not being mindful. So I need to practice more mindfulness. So my dirty brushes I put in here. Nothing fancy, just a Ziploc bag. What I didn't want the bag to get totally bad. I just wrapped them like this and then just put them in there. And then this little guy, I didn't want these rattling around too much, so I just put extra paper towel in there. And then, so I had that little kit. And then I didn't have this morning, so it wasn't in there. So this has a gasket in it to be extra tight, but just to be careful, I do not want, this is odorless thinner, like Gamsol. I don't think it's a Gamsol brand, but similar. I put it in this Ziploc bag just to be sure. I don't want that. Not that my pack, I'll show you my backpack. It's not fancy. In fact, it's falling apart. My birthday's coming up and it's on my wish list to have a new pack. So these come down. These not only slide, but they have really strong magnets, so you can take them off. It's a really well-made little box. I'm pretty impressed with it. Slide that up. This has to be slid up because it will get blocked right here. I noticed when I tried to put paint out here too, this got in the way. So if I decide to put my colors across here, I'll probably slide that up so that it can bypass that and not cause a problem. Another kind of neat thing, this is an extra accessory that costs a little bit more. Pretty nice. I use this for holding my brushes, and I'm going to put my thinner there. You can get a second one for this side. They're pretty cool because this just snaps right in there with those magnets. So I'd like to get one more of those, have a little more spot. Of course, when you are in the field, this has a standard tripod mount screw hole. So I just put it on the tripod that I'm using now to film this. So on vlog days, I'm going to have to bring 2 tripods with me, obviously. This sat really nicely on just a lightweight tripod and was really easy to use. So this part comes with this strap, nothing fancy, just to hold this all together. So I keep forgetting that this isn't put together, and this is what happens. What was I just saying about me not being a very careful person? Okay, let's try that again. There's so much paint on there, it didn't even cause too much disaster. Let's smooth that out though. That's gonna bug me. My fingerprints. There we go. There we go. And now I can see what it looks like framed too. I'm pretty happy with the way that turned out. I'm really excited to do more oil in plein air. We need a less fancy word for in plein air. Kind of like alla prima. Those words are just a little too fancy in my opinion. Okay, so let's properly pick this up. Make sure the back is on it before you pick it up. Don't be like me. Get my messy fingerprints. I knew I would get this really messy immediately because that's just the way I do things. All right, so I packaged these up. This is how I packed this morning. All right, so I had this all ready to go. And then this is a very non-fancy thing. I have a supplementary, it's kind of weird feeling towel. This came with a big watercolor box that someone gave me maybe 30 years ago. Just had it sitting around. So I took this whole thing, I put it in a plastic grocery bag, not so much to protect my backpack, but my backpack is full of dirt, sand, twigs, needles, because I hike every day, 7 days a week, about an hour minimum every day, and it gets very dirty. All right, here's my pack. Poor old thing. The zipper is broken on one side. It is an Osprey brand. So don't forget your leash to tie up your son's Chihuahua so he can't chase the border collies and bark consistently. And of course I have my tennis balls and I have my safety gear in here. I always carry an extra headlamp. I have a way to start a fire. I have some first aid gear. I have a knife. Those are things that are always in here. When you've been in search and rescue for 30 years, you don't go anywhere without that stuff. I can't even remember what's in this bottom one. Let's look. It's a lot of dirt. Here's my fire building kit. I have a couple lighters, fire sticks, and newspaper. Here's a little, just super basic first aid kit. Oh my gosh, there's so much dirt in here. I don't know if I want to show you that. That's a lot of dirt. This is not really art related stuff, just stuff for safe hiking. This is dish soap. That's for if my dogs roll in bear poop or rotten salmon. 2 common Alaska hazards when you have dogs. And dish soap is the only thing that really cuts it, so I can usually find a water source and scrub them off before we get in the car. Then my spare headlamp, and then I not only have a knife, but I have a multi-tool. Okay, that's a full aside. Has nothing to do with art. But if you're going to do in plein air, you may as well be safe, right? You're going to be out in the wilderness, you got to think about these things. I have some ibuprofen. Everything's so dirty, I apologize. Ibuprofen. I just have some handy wipes and some Band-Aids. Nothing really serious. So my Band-Aids. I'd say this thing needs to be de-dusted. So that's some of my first aid stuff. You never know when safety pins are going to be handy out when you're in the wilderness. Your backpack will break, your sandals might fall apart. Those can be really awesome to have. All right, so besides the stuff for the dogs, I always have I have 3 tennis balls, 3 dogs, and I always pack my stool. I put a link in the description for a really similar stool. It's just super inexpensive, so this is what I sit on when I'm painting. My stool goes in here. So if you need to buy a backpack for doing in plein air, or just if you don't already have one, just make sure it's tall enough and large enough to hold everything. This is barely big enough for this stool, but it has served me well. But the stress of trying to go over this stool, I think that's what broke it. Broke this zipper. And that just happened a couple weeks ago, so I'm hoping to get a new backpack. Don't get one that's too big and like so heavy and big and ridiculous. That make it what you take as light as possible so that you feel encouraged and excited to go out. You don't have this big, heavy, clunky thing. Let's get the art things in there. So this is a little heavier than I would normally take, but as you see, they're very compact. I think this is about as compact as you could go as far as an Plein Air set. So this, I tried a couple different ways to put this in here. It seemed like this was the best way with the canvas board in the back. Just slid it right in. I unbuckled these side holders. There we go. So that fits in there. Brushes. I feel like 3 brushes would be fine. It really depends on how you like to paint, but I like to be kind of minimalist. I probably take fewer paint colors with me too, if I need to, if I can get away with it. Put my Ziploc bag with my brushes. Anything messy goes in the Ziploc bag. I don't want all the dirt and such sticking to my oil paint either. That's the reason I'm using these plastic bags. Obviously this pack has seen better days, so it's not like I'm terribly worried about getting paint on it. So really that's it. Besides tea, you gotta have tea if you're an artist, right? If you're doing Plein Air, you should have something nice to sip on. So I have this Stanley mug, and then I just found a spot I could slide it in. It wasn't easy. And zip it all. But I use this carabiner to, well, it's especially important now that the zipper is broken. Make sure you get these side buckles. I like the packs that have these stretchy side pockets. They're really for like water bottles and things, but I use them for the dog's tennis balls. They're really nice to access. Another reason I like these side pockets here is that you can just slide your tripod that will hold your easel right into the side, and that holds it pretty well. And I feel like it's even more secure once you put this cover on. That kind of keeps it from getting snagged. I go through a lot of kind of rough brush, and I don't want this to get snagged in the brush and get pulled out. I do kind of check on it to make sure it stays there. The tennis balls do kind of help hold it in, but these water bottle side pockets can be handy for holding your tripod. Obviously, you could put it inside your backpack too. With this backpack being a little smaller, that's a little more difficult because I have my tea and my ball thrower for the dogs. But this is a great option if you want to be able to carry a tripod. And the rain cover is nice because, you know, it rains a lot here. But also, like this morning, I was too warm. Being that sunny, us Ketchickanites, we can't handle anything over about 60 degrees. We're just not used to it. So I was too warm, so I just shoved my extra jacket in here. I think there's only one more thing I need to show you today. Let's go up to my studio. And that is this. This is the painting I did yesterday. This is actually the first painting I did with that new pochade box. I did a watercolor sketch from this exact same view that's in my sketchbook tour video from last week. I'll put a card up above in case you want to watch that. And I was pretty happy with how this turned out. It's a little bit chaotic. But it was really fun. I just sat on my deck, painted a scene that looked interesting to me, and I thought that was a fun thing to do. Thanks for joining me today. It was really fun sharing with you my new art supplies, my new box for painting out in the outdoors. It makes my daily hikes even more fun to try to create and capture what I'm seeing. As I'm hiking now, it feels like since I've started doing this daily, I'm enjoying my hikes more because I'm looking around going, oh, look at the shapes of those trees and what are the values like? How would I capture this? And I'm taking photos of flowers, plants, trails, ponds, all kinds of things, trees that capture my interest. So it's adding a lot to my life. If you do in plein air painting or drawing or adventuring, I'd love to see photos. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have tried this pochade box that I have, I'll put a link for it down in the description. Let me know if you have any advice on ways to set it up better. If you have advice on how to get that paint in there a little easier. It is kind of a small space. Let me know. I'd love any advice, any tips. If you have a box you think would work better than that one, let me know that too. Anyway, if you are interested in seeing some of my other artwork, you can check out my website at daniellekelly.art. I have some of my older paintings on there. I'm gradually adding some of these new paintings. Another thing I'm also looking for is a flatbed scanner so I can make prints from here of these little watercolors and these smaller paintings I'm doing. If you have any advice on those and the best ones that work for fine art, let me know about that. Anyway, take care, be creative, and have fun.